Just when you thought I couldn't get any more desperate, we're back with another ridiculous attempt at increasing my subscriber count. At first I tried spicing up my thumbnails. Didn't work. I tried doing magic tricks. Didn't work. I took my cock out on camera. That didn't work. I even grew out this pathetic excuse of a mustache. And well, actually, that worked pretty well. And now we finally arrived at giving away free shit. Now I've had the general idea for this video for quite a while, because I often get asked questions along the lines of, "Hey Mario, what kind of preamp should I get for vintage tone?"
Is that an M67 on your shelf? Should I get one?
Hey, what kind of gear should I get for garage rock sound?
Ignoring that stupid bit, my answer is usually some variation of, "Hey pal, you should buy a Shure microphone mixer," or "Hey buddy, you should buy a Bogen amplifier like so." Now in this video, I'm going to explain why I suggest this, how to use such devices, and what are the pros and cons, etc. associated with this. But before we get into that, I want to have an uncomfortable conversation with you guys where we could all be honest with ourselves. So please come join me on the floor. Come on. All right, now that we're on the truth floor, I wanted to bring up a conversation related to home recording. And this really relates to my channel as a whole. I could apply this lesson to every video that I make, but I think it's particularly going to make sense with the video I'm making today. And really, if we are being completely honest with ourselves, as home recordists, we are going to be lucky if we even get more than a dozen people to listen to the music that we make, right? If it wasn't for this YouTube channel, the only people that would be listening to the music I make is, you know, people I'm meeting at shows that I'm giving free tapes or CDs to, right? Or maybe my friends. You know, it's such a small group of people. And you might be wondering, you know, why are you bringing this up? Why are you being such a Debbie Downer? But I think it's important to realize that at the core of really this channel and, you know, most of the people watching this is that we are amateurs, right? And I don't mean that in the negative connotation that the modern usage of that word takes on. I mean that from the true Latin root word amator, which means to love, right? And I want to make it clear here, or we should all be aware that, you know, we're doing this for the love of making music, right? It's something that we feel in our heart. We're not doing it for money, hopefully. We're not doing it for fame, hopefully. And we're not doing it for clout, another hopefully. You know, this really gives us a leg up on people who do this for a living, right? Because it's going to free us up for a ton of creativity. We're not making music for some fictitious audience, right? We should be making it for ourselves. Now, some of you already operate that way, and that is great. But I notice, both in conversations I have with some people online, as well as people I know in real life, they kind of don't have that memo, right? And they have this illusions of grandeur, right? And it starts to really affect your time in the studio, and it really sucks the fun out of things. And that's, you know, why I'm bringing you down on the floor here today. And the reason I think this conversation is so important to today's lesson is the conversation sometimes boils down to, you know, what should I be doing in the recording studio? What piece of gear do I need? What's the plugin of 2025 that's going to, you know, make my mixes, give it that extra oomph to compete with other people on streaming services, right? And in all my videos, I'm just always trying to convey, stop thinking so rigidly. Stop feeling so constrained. You see the symbolism here? Stop feeling so constrained, right? Like, find your own way. Stop listening to what people are saying on YouTube, me included. And you gotta realize a lot of channels too are getting paid to say things even if they're not disclosing it. And really, like, I'm really putting a lot of emphasis on the word fun here. We should be maximizing the amount of fun we're having in the studio, because the more fun we have, the more music we're gonna record, the more unique our output is going to be, the more chance someone is going to listen to it and like it, right? So I'm going to circle back on the word fun here, but really what I'm getting at here is the best piece of gear that you could get is the one where you are going to want to wake up in the morning early so you could get back into your studio and start using it again, right? So speaking of that, let's go back to talking about the Bogen amp. And here it is, the Bogen C10 amplifier, now dubbed the plug-in killer. And really, this video has very little to do with this specific model of Bogen amp, right? Because I could substitute this unit with a million other pieces of gear, and this video would be exactly the same, okay? Before I mentioned the Shure microphone mixers, the Shure M series, I'll call it, there's so many models out there of microphone mixers that Shure makes. They're all good. They could all be gotten for very cheap. I recommend those. You know, they can be easily found on used audio markets. These Bogen amplifiers, like this one here or this one here, these were literally everywhere. They were used in churches, schools, workplaces, stadiums. You know, they were just used as public address amplifiers hooked up to really simple speaker systems. You can find them in the trash, you can find them in the flea market, you can find them anywhere. There's literally millions and millions of these things. So I recommend those. You could get a crappy Radio Shack mixer. You could get an old tape machine that doesn't work anymore and just use the, you know, the preamp portion of that unit, right? Really, the opportunities are endless here. And since the opportunities are endless here, I'm going to give you some key points to look at when you're getting a piece of gear like this. First and foremost, piggybacking off my last video, do not pay a lot. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it, because you should not be paying a lot for all the vintage gear that you are buying. Prime example here. I got this baby for $5, Radio Shack speaker amplifier. And for this specific video, the cheaper the better, because the cheaper gear you get, it's more likely the headroom is going to be lower on said piece of gear, and that's going to come into play later when I show you how to really overdrive these units and get some really fun effects. Second thing to think about, input connections. Does it have an XLR input? Does it have a 1/4-inch jack input? Is it low impedance? Is it high impedance? Does it have an option for a line level in? Is it terminal connections only? All things to be thinking about. If you have a limited equipment set up to begin with, you really want to take this into account, because it's going to dictate what pieces of gear you can get. After that, you want to think about the output connection. Same thing, 1/4-inch jack, XLR. If it's a microphone mixer, is it just a mic level output? Does it have a line level output too? Because line level is really useful if you're trying to connect straight to a mixer or an interface, whatever the case may be. In some cases, like the one today, this Bogen amplifier only has speaker connections out, which means you can only connect a speaker out. And do not worry, I have a really quick electrical fix to take care of that, to convert the speaker output to a line output. We'll talk about that later on in the video, if that is the case, whatever piece of gear that you get. Next order of business, is that baby tube driven? Awesome. Is that baby transistor driven? Only slightly less awesome. Now, I know it's really easy to be snobby about how tubes are better than transistors. Trust me, that's me. But for the sake of this video, I'm telling you, it's not gonna matter. You can make either or work. Transistors are obviously gonna be a lot easier to come by, a lot cheaper, and they're gonna work just as well for this video. Don't buy into the second order versus third harmonic, whatever the okay? We don't care about that. We're looking at it from a garage rock perspective in this video today. It's not gonna matter. Either or will work just fine. Let's move on. Next thing you want to think about is if that puppy's got a VU meter. This makes gain changing a little easier when you're setting up the levels for your mic, but really not a necessity at all. Really, you should be using your ears, especially with the type of recording we're going to be doing later on in this video. Your ears are going to be doing all the dictating of what sound you need. And really, the reason I like VU meters, it looks kind of cool to see the needle bounce around. Also, it makes you look like you know what you're doing, okay? So think about that, VU meter or to not VU meter. Next thing, does your baby got an EQ control on it? This Shure microphone mixer, no EQ besides a low pass filter, but this Bogen amplifier here has both a bass and treble control. Really useful. It's really nice to shape the sound before it ever hits your mixer or your interface, where the hell you are recording to. Keep that in mind. Next feature you want to look out for is if your unit has a built-in compressor. These are a lot of fun, and a lot of times on these PA type of units that weren't necessarily meant for music recording, the compressors are really colored as they were meant for speech and dictation purposes, so you could have a lot of fun with that. Next thing up from that, you might have a limiter built in. Way fun. Definitely keep that in mind because you could have a lot of good lo-fi garage goodness. Next thing you want to think about is the number of inputs. This Bogen amplifier here has only got one microphone input. Boring. Let's take a look at this Shure microphone mixer. You could hook up 4 microphones to this baby. Now, I know what you DAW freaks are thinking. Why would I ever mix microphone signals before going to my interface? I have the ability to have unlimited tracks. And first, you're a nerd. Second of all, I'm telling you, it is so much fun to mix your microphones before it ever hits your board or your interface, your tape machine, whatever. It forces you to commit, which forces you to be creative. It forces you to be a better recording engineer. I'm telling you, you gotta try it. You have no idea how many times I've used this exact unit to do a 3-mic drum setup mixed to mono. Literally countless times. I really like it. It's so much fun, and I really think you should try it out. And the last thing I want to mention, and arguably the most important for some people like me, is does that piece of gear look cool? Now, you may think I'm joking, but what did I say earlier in this video? The best piece of gear for you is the one that's going to make you wake up early in the morning to use it again. Sometimes cool-looking gear is what gets you there, right? It's what makes you want to use it. It makes you want to touch the knobs and fingle the nipples. You know what I mean? Fingle the nipples. Anyway, let's just move on to the next thing on how to use one of these beautiful pieces of gear. Alright, so let's talk about how to use these pieces of gear. And I got my handy-dandy white supremacist board to explain it all. Now I'm going to get into really, it's like kind of basic stuff here if you know analog equipment, but this video is more tailored towards people who have only ever worked in a DAW, never had an outboard piece of gear, and you know, that's why I'm nicknaming this Bogen C10 the plug-in killer, right? Because that's kind of like my target audience for this video. Now let's draw something really simple out here. Okay, so I have a random waveform drawn on this graph here, and when you are setting levels to an audio interface or any digital format for that matter, the peaks of that waveform, you want to be below whatever the maximum headroom of the unit you have is. So here I've drawn in these dashed lines where that maximum headroom is going to be on your digital interface, right? And in order to maximize your noise to signal ratio, you know, you want your peaks to be as close as possible to that line without clipping at all, right? Because digital clipping is just ugly. We all know this, right? But when you're recording to an analog piece of gear, this threshold can be crossed, and it is often encouraged. I'm gonna redraw this so it only has one half of the waveform just so we could better see what's going on here. Okay, so I have half the waveform drawn in here, and please keep in mind before I move on, I'm greatly simplifying this. Analog circuitry is a lot more complicated. The lines are a lot more blurred. There's so many intricacies there with the transformers, the capacitors, all this jazz. There's a lot of moving components, for the lack of a better phrase, okay? So I'm keeping it really simple here, but normally if you wanted the cleanest signal noise as possible, right, you're gonna wanna stay right below that headroom threshold that we talked about earlier, like with a digital system. But as the peaks of your waveforms start encroaching on that limit, you're going to start to get saturation effects, right? And as you turn the gain knob more and more and you bring that threshold lower and lower and lower, that's when you start getting into the distortion threshold. Now there's a huge spectrum here of different levels of saturation, different levels of distortion. You know, and with saturation and distortion, there's going to be, starting with the saturation, some compression effects, and then when you go down to extreme distortion, you're going to start getting limiting effects where your waveforms are literally just being chopped into, you know, square waves, right? And that's what gives you that distortion sound. Once again, really simplifying it, but this spectrum here, you know, you could really, depending on the song you're recording, depending on the instrument you're recording, where you want to lie within this threshold is going to, you know, greatly vary. For example, if you just want to keep it subtle, maybe you really only want the occasional peaks to be crossing that threshold, right? That level of saturation, you might not even be able to hear it with your ear, especially if you have an untrained ear. It's going to be happening without you even realizing it. And I think a lot of the times when people talk about that glue, that warmness, right? And that inexplicable kind of characteristic, I think that's kind of what they're talking about. They're really just talking about analog saturation. It becomes a lot more obvious when you start distorting. Your ears are going to pick that up right away. It's going to be, you know, that characteristic like lo-fi sound. And as I said before, you know, different instruments, different source materials is going to react differently to the to your gear, right? Like take for example, a drum set. With a drum set, there's a lot of really loud peaks that are really short and not sustained at all, right? Like those peaks can pass that threshold very easily, and since it's a small amount of time, you're not going to notice it. You know, the unit will be able to handle that without distorting, right? But take, for example, like a really sustained organ sound, you know, since the waveform is going to be more closer towards this threshold, once you start crossing it, it's going to be a lot more obvious in your ears, right? So I really can't tell you where to put your gain knob. It's going to be all by your ears. It's going to be depending on what song you're making, what type of genre you're going for, what instrument, etc. Now I know what you DAW loving freaks are thinking right now. Mario, I could do all that with the touch of a button, and I could switch from a Studer 8800 to an Ampex 350 faster than you could kiss a duck. And to that, I say, shut the fuck up, you little pussy ass bitch. Now, I'm just joking. Obviously, some people out there are gonna love their DAWs. I'm not really trying to change that. Well, I guess I am trying to change that a little bit. You know, I am trying to get you to think outside the box. Let me try that again. Think outside the box, right? And, you know, I could probably make the argument that the sonic differences between real analog saturation versus, you know, a plug-in saturation, but I'm not even going to go there. I'm really just going to stick to my earlier argument I made in this video about us home recordists really should just be having as much fun as possible. And I guarantee you, using something like this is going to be a lot more fun than using a plugin. This is guaranteed to put a smile across your face, ear to ear. That is why I'm dubbing it the plugin killer, okay? And this is like a great foray into the analog outboard world if you're stuck in that DAW, right? Now, obviously, I'm a little biased, but please just try to keep an open mind and try to work with me here, okay? Okay, let's take a moment to talk about the introduction recording I did with that Ty Segall cover. And, you know, I just want to briefly talk about the recording process with this Bogen amp. And, you know, my original idea for this video was for the first time, I was going to use a DAW to record something, and I was going to use only the DAW, the Bogen amp, and this microphone, and I was going to record a garage rock song to prove I could make a garage rock song on a DAW. Unfortunately for all of us, I went to download Reaper and I literally broke out in hives and started convulsing on the floor, okay? So I just didn't do it. I couldn't do it. Me and DAWs just don't mix. I did the second best thing, and I recorded everything with my Alesis HT24, you know, a digital format, so sonically speaking, exactly the same as me using an audio interface in a DAW. And I didn't use any other outboard gear, right? I utilized, you know, this Bogen amp for everything, right? And I was pushing the levels very hard, right? And all of the, you know, you're going to hear saturation in that track, the overdriving to the distortion, you know, all of the compression and limiting was coming just from this unit. I really want to put as much emphasis on that as possible. I mean, that mix came out really loud. There is no master bus compression or any master bus limiting on that track. You know, it is all because the individual tracks were being limited to some extent by this unit. And really, it was really remarkable how great it wound up coming out. And let's be honest here, I totally nailed that early Thai sound, or like that early Dwyer, kind of King Gizzard, you know, late 2000s type of garage lo-fi sound. I mean, that was like identical. If I told you guys that I recorded that on a Tascam 388, none of you would have questioned it. I mean, you would have lapped it up like a lapdog you are, okay? I mean, such a similar sound, you know, like the sound of overdriving this unit versus overdriving like a Tascam 388 preamps, so similar, right? I mean, obviously it's not the same, but similar enough where I'm telling you, you guys would have never known the difference, right? So, I mean, it came out so great. I mean, literally that drum sound, obviously, sonically speaking, probably the worst drum sound I recorded in over 2 years, but I love it more than anything. I mean, goddamn, that shit was dirty. Let's take a moment to listen to that because I just loved it so much. Ooh, that's tasty. I'm gonna have to do that again. That was like great, and really like what I gained most from recording that little introduction there was how much fun I had. And that's why I've been putting so much emphasis on this word fun in this video today, because that was the most fun I've had in my studio in a long time. I mean, I was just cranking levels, experimenting. If you notice in the video, you know, I have 2 different outfits on. I originally did it all within like an hour with that blue shirt on, you know, the day before. And, you know, I had a blast doing it. And then, you know, later on in the night, I'm like listening to the mix over and over, and I'm like, you know, I really want to redo the guitar part to use my twin reverb. You know, the vocals are a little too clean. You know, I was starting to have all these ideas. My creative juices were flowing. And like I said, the next morning, I couldn't wait to wake up and, you know, re-record the guitar track, run my vocals through my twin reverb amp, get that, you know, crazy, dirty, reverbed out Ty Segall sound. And I was just having so much fun. And like, I know I'm just like, I said the word fun like 10,000 times in this video, but that's what I'm really trying to emphasize is like that type of experimentation. Like, I don't see how you could have that easily when you're using like a distortion plugin on a DAW. It's just, to me, it's just not gonna be the same as compared to using something like this. It was just such a blast, and why I really recommend doing so. I'm usually at the point in my videos where I show a bunch of examples of me utilizing this technique and gear and etc. on previous recordings that I've done, but really, I have used specifically this M67 on so many tracks I've done in the past that I'm just going to put a couple on the screen, and if you want, you can go listen to those tracks to get a better idea. Ironically, when I recorded my album Distorted Proportions, I actually didn't use this color box recording technique at all. And that's really because that was when I finally got the 16 track here, and it almost felt wrong, like cheapening the sound of this tape machine by doing that color box method. You know, it was a little different when in my early stages of recording, when I had my TAC 80-8 or my Model 24, where I was just like experimenting, trying new things, having fun. You know, like when I was recording Distorted Proportions, there was less emphasis on the fun factor and more emphasis on I really wanted a professional product. So, you know, I was kind of dictating my recording practices a bit. So anyway, I'll put a couple examples down below that you can listen to, and we'll go from there. Let's get into the giveaway, because I'm sure you all guys just skipped ahead to the giveaway, right? So let's go over that right now. All right, the giveaway of the plugin killer. Now, I've never done a giveaway. I don't even know if you're allowed to do giveaways on YouTube, but here we are. We're going to find this all out together. First, let's just briefly talk about this unit, the Bogen C10, as I talked about. This was, based on the serial number, this was made in 1998. I looked this up the other day. You can still buy this exact unit from Bogen, brand new. It's like $200 and something. I bought it for $10 at a rummage sale, and I did some slight modifications to it because there's only speaker out connections here. There's no line out, which, you know, really sucks if you're just looking to connect this to your interface or mixer or whatever. So I did a speaker to line level conversion here. Super simple. I mentioned it earlier in the video. If you have a speaker only connection, I'll tell you how to do that. I think I'm gonna do a separate video. It's extremely simple. You need very minimal soldering skills and electrical knowledge skills. It is super easy to make a speaker output to a line level output. So that's what I wound up doing. I wound up changing the line in function to a line out function. This jack, I wound up just rewiring it inside and labeling it line out here. Other than that, the aux switch on the front obviously doesn't work anymore because I got rid of the aux line in function, so that is not going to work. All of the modifications I did are completely reversible, so if you ever wanted to reverse it back for whatever reason, I made it so you could do that very easily. So let's talk about the giveaway here. I'm figuring this out the same as you guys, so there's a couple stipulations. I think I'm going to do a Google form below where you're going to put your name and an email for me to you know, contact you, and when I figure out who wins this goddamn thing. I think I'm gonna do it by random, most likely. I think I might have to do it by random. I don't know the bylaws for this crap. And there, like I said, a couple stipulations. While there isn't an age restriction, I would really hope someone on the younger age would win this. So if you're a little older, you know, maybe don't enter. I remember the last time I brought this up in a video for this, someone mentioned, you know, why does age matter? You know, someone could be old and not have gear or money, and I get that. Honestly, I do, but, you know, I'm trying to get the youths of today, you know, interested in recording, and especially analog recording, and this is kind of the gateway drug to analog recording, okay? So I hope it's someone younger. What else? I'm going to be accepting entries until I hit a certain view threshold. As I said, shameless way to get more subscribers, right? So I'm going all in. I'm gonna, right now, 30,000 views by 2 weeks. If I'm not even close to that, because some of my videos only get like 1,000 views, we'll readjust in 2 weeks if I have to lower that, because you know, I don't want this giveaway to last months, right? I want it to be done relatively quick. What else? Unfortunately, this is only going to be open to U.S. residents, not because of shipping costs, it's because I'm racist. And also, don't enter if you have a bajillion other pieces of gear. You know, this video was really tailored to someone who has only ever recorded within a DAW. I would really hope this is, you know, their first piece of gear, right? So if you have a lot, don't enter, okay? I'm really using the honor system here. What else? What else, baby? There's a disclaimer here that you can't annoy me months later when this XLR cable stops working and you need to solder it, and or something else breaks. I don't want to be involved, okay? Learn how to solder, learn how to fix it. I don't think anything's gonna break, but I'm just putting it out there. Please don't bother me. And I think that's really it. I think I went over everything. This video was a mess as always. All my videos are a mess, as I can't help myself. Anyway, down below, tell me what you think. If you think I'm annoying as shit, I want to hear it. I can take it. I got a tough skin, okay, baby? Anyway, I think for the first time ever, I'm gonna do it. That's right. I'm gonna do it. You ready? Are you ready? Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this video.